What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to this week's installment on The Lake Show, and I really appreciate you all making me a part of your day. So, last episode that I posted was 2 days ago, and that episode was realistically meant for the week prior, and I just ran out of time that week to literally work on it at all. So, if you haven't checked it out already, go back into YouTube and check out my latest video, Coaches on the Hot Seat for college football. I went in and gave my coaches that I thought they were on the hot seat, that I think this is kind of a make or break kind of season for them in the works. And I also gave my championship bubble, my national championship picture, who teams I'm looking at that can win the national championship, and those who would be on the bubble, like right on the outskirts, those who can make a run, possibly, in a dark horse sort of way, win a national championship. But again, I apologize for not posting that last week. I just found out I'll be starting a new job here real soon in mid-September in Pittsburgh, so I will be moving. I don't know how much that will affect the channel. I do have space and everything that I will be able to record consistently. So I'm asking you, be patient with me through that transition in the coming weeks. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm back for, here until the end of football season. Basically, I'm going to be more consistent. I'm going to work on it and be more consistent for all of you, and realistically for myself too, because I'm trying to be more consistent. I want to post more often than I actually do, but that's neither here nor there. It happens. But that was last week. Well, that was supposed to be last week's episode, but it ended up getting posted 2 days ago as of today. Obviously, I'm recording this the day after I posted, so I'm posting this on Thursday, August 27th. So that's when this will be up and running. But before we get started today, I give all praise and all glory to the one true God, my one true Savior, Jesus Christ. I thank him every single day for the life that I live in, the blessings that he's given me in this life. It's truly immaculate and amazing, and that's who I live for. He's my why, he's my everything, and yeah, I will always make sure I start off the episode giving praise to the one true God of this entire universe. So, with that being said, we got a full slate today. It's going to be a little bit of a longer episode, which, I'm probably going to be pushing 45 minutes to an hour, give or take, with some of the stuff that we're talking about today. College football is back this weekend, week 0. We got a couple matchups that we will talk about, but first, we're going to get into some of the NFL drama that has been unfolding over the past couple days, and it has to do with none other than the greatest franchise in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. So Deshaun Watson, everybody knows Deshaun Watson, the one who got a 5-year contract out of Cleveland for $250 million, fully guaranteed, not a single penny less, fully funded, fully guaranteed for him to play not even a full season yet in a Cleveland uniform. He's been battling injuries, and we all know the low life that he is outside of football, with all the numerous accusations of sexual misconduct for him. But again, we're just strictly talking about his press conference that he had a couple days ago, where he basically called out the entire fan base of Cleveland, the entire city of Cleveland. Now, I get it only from the perspective that he was not happy. He took it personal that the fans of Cleveland were booing him and cheering him when he got hurt, when he ruptured his Achilles last season. So, again, I never wish anybody to get hurt, but when it comes to this aspect, this man has done nothing for the city of Cleveland. This man has done nothing for the city of Cleveland and their football franchise. This man has collected a $250 million paycheck and hasn't even played a full NFL season in the Cleveland Browns uniform. And he still got the number one starting job over, second-year quarterback Shedeur Sanders. So the whole reason everybody's up in arms in Cleveland about this, and realistically everybody, is because, one, Deshaun Watson is not a likable person, especially outside of football. We all know all the numerous lawsuits to his name, and also the fact that when he was playing, Well, first of all, he wasn't playing at all because he's been constantly hurt. But the very few times that he has played, he's been horrible. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL to put on a jersey. The whole Deshaun Watson mess and the whole Deshaun Watson Cleveland saga is just baffling still. Like, I didn't think Cleveland could get any more rock bottom, but they've reached below rock bottom, if there is such a thing in the NFL. Like, I don't understand Cleveland. I guarantee you this is mainly an owner thing, that why they haven't cut him. Like, you're going to be paying him that money anyway. Like, you might as well just cut him and cut your losses at that point. Because at the very least, the whole team will rally around Shedeur Sanders. Despite him, I have my mental reservations about Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback. But I think he's definitely better than Deshaun Watson. I don't think it's necessarily close. The fans in Cleveland love him. His teammates love him. Yeah, could he be a little cocky and arrogant? Well, who isn't a little cocky and arrogant from time to time when you're a starting quarterback in the National Football League? I think Shedeur Sanders should be starter. There is no reason to believe why Deshaun Watson should have gotten this starting role whatsoever. If I'm Cleveland, if I'm the fans of Cleveland, and I'm a Pittsburgh fan, this is coming from a guy who does not like Cleveland sports whatsoever. Can't stand them, don't matter to me whatsoever. The first 2 games of the year are away. If Deshaun Watson is still a starter by week 3, I feel like every fan in Cleveland, if you have a ticket to that game, I don't even know who they play, don't go to the game. Just completely boycott all of Cleveland football. Like, just completely boycott it. Don't go to the game. Don't support Jimmy Haslam. Don't support Deshaun Watson, because what Deshaun Watson has been saying and has done, it's just a big slap in the face to the entire franchise and to the entire city, if that. So that's the whole story going on with Deshaun Watson. How he's still on an NFL roster is still baffling to me, but with a $250 million price tag, I guess they'll keep him on the roster for now. All right, now we're going to move into the college football world, and we're going to start off with a little bit of the turmoil that's still happening within the NIL and the transfer portal window. So anybody who doesn't know, former NFL players, meaning players who either went undrafted or were drafted or weren't under contract yet for like the main story is Daquan Wright, former tight end of Ole Miss, now formerly tight end of the Cleveland Browns. He was waived from the team, so he never fully got an NFL contract. But being that in college now there's a 5-for-5 rule to where you have 5 years of eligibility. So I believe it would be the class of 2022 who just went into the draft did not get that chance. And the argument is being made that, well, if they did know that this change was coming to college football, then they would have probably stayed in college one more year, which, again, that's neither here nor there when it comes to this. But so the Big Ten and the SEC are immediately putting a stop to this, passing new rules and regulations regarding former players. And so this is what the step-by-step explanation is from the SEC. Now, this is in an article written by Heather Dinich. This was written yesterday, but obviously the SEC, this was written 2 days ago. This article was written, this whole declaration by the SEC was written yesterday. So not permitted to have an athlete on its roster who has previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft and did not appropriately withdraw. 2, signed a contract with an NFL or other professional football league, NBA, G League, or WNBA or affiliate team. And number 3, been listed on an NFL or other professional football league, NBA, G League, or WNBA or affiliate roster. So if any athlete who has been a part of any of those circumstances, they are not eligible to be on or play on a college football team anymore. So it's funny thinking about how 25 years ago we had Florida State quarterback Chris Winkie win the Heisman Trophy when he was a 27-year-old. So I'm pretty sure that there is going to be an age cap on the limit you're allowed to stay in college athletics, which I fully understand and I fully support, because why on earth would you take away a roster spot, maybe from an incoming freshman who's trying to prove himself, maybe became a walk-on. How are you going to tell that kid, no, you're not good enough anymore? Kick him off the team and then welcome a guy like a Daquan Wright, who already declared for the NFL, who went undrafted, was literally playing in preseason games and catching passes from NFL quarterbacks in game, and then all of a sudden you're going to welcome him back on their team. And of course, Daquan Wright, formerly of Ole Miss, would be transferring to LSU to play with Lane Kiffin. So go figure, it'd be Lane Kiffin at the center of the college football world again and the stuff he's doing. But I can't even blame Lane Kiffin for this. They are going to get a competitive advantage any way they see fit, or they can. They're not going to deliberately break the rules, but they'll find ways to skirt it. They'll find ways to work around it. They'll find loopholes. The NCAA is toothless still, with all the lawsuits and rules and regulations that have been going on, being passed. The NCAA is basically a toothless entity at this point. They have no say in any of this, regardless of where they stand on any of the matter. It's basically the Big Ten and the SEC that can police all of college football. But there should be again, I've been one to say that there should be guardrails on this stuff, and there should have been from NIL's inception. Excuse me. But how I personally feel about this, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous in the sense, not necessarily the athletes trying to get a fifth year of their college career that they are entitled to now because of those rules and regulations that have changed that allow longer play time for college athletics, especially football. But how are you going to look someone in the eye that maybe worked as a walk-on to their football program and then basically tell them, tell them you're not good enough, you're off the team, to make room for somebody who already had their shot in college? That's my whole thing about it. The college football has reached a new low, even though it's still wildly, abundantly popular, and it's my favorite sport on planet Earth. Still, this is just wild, wild news, but I'm very happy that the Big Ten, albeit the SEC, put their foot down, but that is after Big Brother Big Ten stepped in first and basically passed rules like that. Like, okay, those penalties, there's going to be severe penalties if any team decides to do this against, the rules of the said conference. I believe it's up to 50% of the games could be forfeited or you could be suspended for 50% of those games, and you lose NIL. I believe it's NIL compensation or something, regardless of, revenue that you could potentially make and give to your NIL or other recruits. You can lose. There's significant penalties for anybody who breaks these. So now the argument's going to be that Daquan Wright should be allowed to, because none of this was passed when he entered the transfer portal from the Browns to go back to college to play for Lane Kiffin. More than likely, I doubt he'll still get to play, but you never know. So that's what's going on with college football in that sense. It's wild times, man. Like, the world we live in now, the sports world is just crazy, the world we live in. I never thought 5 years ago that we'd ever see something like this in college football. Having former pro players fight so hard to come back to play into college, have 18 teams per conference. I still think that the conferences are way too big. It's absurd and ridiculous. It just depends on, your schedule lottery at that point, how your season goes. I think it's absolutely insane. All right, now we're going to jump into more college football, but now we're going to make some picks. We're going to talk about week 0 of the college football season. Well, technically week 1, but week 0, the main games start next week. But this week we got a couple good games, and I can't wait to review them. I can't wait to talk about them, and we're going to make some picks right now. So we're going to go through the probably 4 or 5 of the most high notable matchups before next week. So this week, Saturday, August 29th, one of the games that'll be very highly watched. We got the North Carolina Tar Heels against the TCU Horned Frogs in Dublin, Ireland, of all places, which, I do believe it was Florida State and Georgia Tech from 2 years ago that kicked off the college football season from there. And I believe it was Kansas State and Iowa State last year. But regardless, TCU is an 8.5-point favorite right now. The over-under is 46.5. I'm taking TCU by a wide margin. Anybody who knows what's going on with North Carolina football knows that it is a complete and utter failure and dumpster fire. The Bill Belichick move has not worked whatsoever. I believe, no word on an OC, no word on a DC. It's completely... There's just so much going around on that program that I don't even know any of the full story. All I know is Bill Belichick has basically had one of the worst tenures you could possibly think about when it comes to a college football coach. This man is a complete tire fire, complete dumpster fire. North Carolina is just in for some rough years. Why they went Bill Belichick, I have no clue. But TCU and North Carolina open up the college football season in Dublin, Ireland. I think TCU is going to whoop them. I think TCU wins by probably 35. Let's go with San Jose State traveling on the road to number 14 USC. So we get our first top 25 team represented in college football. USC is a 38.5-point favorite. The over-under is 60. Well, guess what? I'll take the over on... I'll take the USC money line. I think USC is going to whoop San Jose State. Early on ACC matchup, we got NC State traveling on the road to Charlottesville, Virginia to take on the Cavaliers. Virginia coming off a pretty good season by their standards. Probably their best season in school history. They made the ACC championship, were one win away from making the college football playoff, but they were upset by Duke, 7-5 Duke, by Manny Diaz of all coaches, to lose the ACC championship and lose out on a college football playoff berth. I'm going to take NC State, though, because I do think they have, CJ Bailey is coming back, their quarterback. He's a very solid quarterback. They also got a new transfer wide receiver, JoJo Trader from Miami, who is a stud, played on the same team as Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. Wildly talented, just never got it going at Miami because of the sheer amount of depth that is on the Hurricanes roster. But I would take the NC State Wolfpack in this. Virginia's favored by 4.5 at home, but I'm going to take NC State in the upset. All right, we'll talk about two more of these games. We got New Mexico State going on the road to Tallahassee and Doak Campbell Stadium to take on Florida State. This is a do-or-die year for Florida State, and it has been something that I have been talking about for a while now. Even on the episode I posted 2 days ago, Mike Norvell, head coach of Florida State, was one of my one of my big topics that I was talking about. Whereas if you take out the 13-1, 13-2 season that he had back in 2023, it is a whole bunch of losing seasons and very mediocre football play. So everybody thought Florida State deserved to be in the playoff that year. I was one of those people. Despite being a Miami fan, I still thought Florida State deserved to be in. It's not their fault that they lost their starting quarterback. It is what it is. Would they have been blown out in the playoff? Absolutely they would have. They would have absolutely got steamrolled. Georgia is the same team that steamrolled them. I believe it was 65-3 in the Orange Bowl that year. So it's been a long road for Mike Norvell, but I think the train stops here at the end of this season. I think Mike Norvell's getting fired at the end of the season, but I am not taking New Mexico State to beat Florida State. Florida State's going to go 1-0 to start off. They're favored by 31.5. I'm going to take the over on that. I'll take the Florida State money line when it comes to that too. Florida State's going to whoop New Mexico State. See, that's the tragic part about the opening week of college football. There's not a lot of high marquee kind of games that you can just wrap your arms around. Yeah, some of them are fascinating. I think NC State and Virginia could be a great ACC game to watch. North Carolina and TCU, even though I think TCU is going to whoop them, you get two bigger name programs going at each other, and then you get one top 25 team playing. So I definitely think that college football, the football schedule itself, and who plays when and who plays who, I think that needs to be altered and changed in the coming years, but I don't know exactly the in-depths of making schedules, especially with 148 D1 teams or something like that. All right, one last game we're going to talk about. Memphis traveling on the road to UNLV, and UNLV is favored by 4.5 right now, and I'm going to take the Running Rebels to beat Memphis, and with UNLV will be coming up real shortly in my next topic too, but I definitely think that the Running Rebels will have it. So that's week 0. Those are the college football games that we got this upcoming Saturday. We have made it. We are back, and we will have football every single week until I believe it is at the end of February next year. So we're in for a wild ride, and it's going to be a fun time. All right, now we are going into the next topic, and I've talked about this for a couple weeks now. I was wanting to make one, but I finally had the time to. I'm finally going to give my college football playoff bracket prediction. I'm going to give you my 12-team playoff prediction, the teams behind it, 1 through 12. I'm going to give you all of them and my reasoning behind it, and then I'm going to have it all play out. I'm going to see who is left at the end of this bracket, who I would take, who I think will win. The winner probably won't shock you, but regardless, I'm being unbiased about this. Even though it may not seem like that, I'm going to be unbiased about it. But I will also talk about possible chaos scenarios too. So here is my 12-team playoff that I have going on. This is my 2027 college football playoff prediction. My number 1 seed, my number 1 team, I'm going to have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I believe that they're going to go undefeated. I think that they have the best team in America right now. Stacked offense, stacked defense. I think that Notre Dame is in for a big year. My number 2 overall seed, I'm going to have the Big Ten champion, Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm going to have Ohio State playing Oregon in the Big Ten championship. I think the Big Ten is absolutely loaded with so much talented teams that can make a run in the college football playoff. And I actually have 5 Big Ten teams, I have 5 Big Ten teams that are represented in this playoff. But I have the Big Ten champion Ohio State Buckeyes as my 2nd seed. My 3rd seed, I have SEC champion Texas Longhorns. I think this is the year. I think this is the year that Sark finally puts it all together and has a team that can legitimately make another run and possibly win a national championship. I think that this team is much deeper than it was last year, especially on the defensive side. I think that's going to be a top 3 unit in all of college football. And I have them playing Georgia in the SEC title game, and I have Texas overcoming the Georgia hurdle finally to be my 3rd seed. My 4th seed, I have ACC champion, the Miami Hurricanes. Miami, in my opinion, they'll go 12-1. They'll win the ACC. They'll probably lose to Notre Dame. If there's Miami's, like, again, when I do pick'ems, it's, some of these are a coin flip in my opinion. And I believe Notre Dame is a 6.5 point favorite right now. But being that it's in South Bend, the Hurricanes got them last year in Hard Rock Stadium. But I do think Notre Dame will probably get them in South Bend this year. But Miami comes in as my number 4 seed, and that rounds out my buys. All right, seeds 5 through 12. Number 5, I got Big Ten champion runner-up, Oregon Ducks. I think Oregon has its most stacked team in the Dan Lanning era. Dante Moore coming back, a deep defensive line, great offensive weapons, great offensive line. This is the most well-rounded Oregon team that I've personally think I've ever seen on paper. Now it just matters. Can Dan Lanning, he's won playoff games, but he has not beaten the top dog yet. Think about it. Number 1 seed back in 2023, the first iteration, or back in 2024, first iteration of this, they got belted by Ohio State by 20. And then last year, they got whooped by Indiana in the semifinal. They got bludgeoned to death. So I think this year will say a lot about Dan Lanning, but I'm not one of those people that believes that, cannot, will not, or have not, will not. I think that it's just a matter of time until Dan Lanning gets this program over the hump. But I think Oregon comes in at number 5. Number 6, another Big Ten school, I have the Indiana Hoosiers. I think Indiana pulls back just a little bit. I think they miss out on Minneapolis. I don't think they repeat as Big Ten champions, but they definitely have a loaded roster. They have the best coach in America. They have the best coaching in America, one would argue. But I definitely think Indiana will be back. I know I flirted with them to possibly miss the playoff, but I'm not going to discount Kurt Signetti. So my number 6 team is the Indiana Hoosiers. My 7 seed, the SEC runner-up, Georgia Bulldogs. I'm not going to discredit anything about Kirby Smart at all. I think Kirby Smart's a hell of a coach, and I think that Georgia is a heck of a football team. I worry about their offense because I just worry about Gunnar Stockton. Is he going to be able to, take that offense a little bit to the next level? I don't know. I doubt it. But I still think that Georgia will be formidable nonetheless. All those they need a more consistent pass rush this year. That is something they struggled with mightily last year. Georgia didn't sack anybody unless they blitzed. But regardless, I think Georgia is still very good. I think they're going to be in the SEC title game. I think the only team that's better than them is the team that's more talented than them, and that's Texas, and a very deep roster that they have. But Georgia, definitely formidable in their own right. They come in at my number 7 seed. My number 8 seed resides in Lubbock, Texas, to the Big 12 champion, Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech, despite the Brandon Sorsby situation, despite everything that's happened this offseason with Texas Tech, this is still a stacked roster. This is still a deep roster. And even when Will Hammond came in for Baron Morton last year, Will Hammond lit it up in that offense. So he's not a scrub by any means. I still think Texas Tech is light years ahead in the Big 12, but I think the gap shrunk maybe a little bit. I think they'll play BYU in the Big 12 title game, either BYU or Houston. I think Houston might have an outside shot to get in, but they must beat Texas Tech. But I think the Red Raiders win the Big 12, and they come in at my number 8 seed. Number 9, now we're going to get into those big at-large spots. Towards the back part of this bracket. Number 9, I have the Oklahoma Sooners. A healthy John Mateer, a fantastic defense. If they have a run game this year, Oklahoma will be very viable, and I think they are definitely a playoff contender. Last year, they lost in the first round to Alabama. Still don't know how they blew that 17-point lead. I really don't. But John Mateer staying healthy is the big key for this. They extended Brett Venables, so Brett Venables is going to be there for a long time now in Norman, Oklahoma. But I think that Brett will have this team rolling. Again, health is a big concern, and the running game needs addressed. But if those two things are kept, Oklahoma is going to be a very, very viable team in the SEC for sure. My number 10 team, another Big Ten team, and I think this is the year they finally get over the hump, and mainly Lincoln Riley. I have the USC Trojans coming in at number 10. If there is a year to do it, it has got to be this year. Lincoln Riley, I put him on the hot seat last week because there is no reason to have this much talent and you still cannot win a single college football playoff game. From his time in Oklahoma, his early time at USC with Caleb Williams, and now probably his deepest and most talented roster. I think this has got to be the year that he finally puts it together, and I think he will. I think USC is going to be very viable this year. They went undefeated at home last year, and I think USC is just overall going to be a deeper and better team this year. And they have the number 1 recruiting class in the nation for next year. So USC Trojans, they're coming in at my number 10 spot. All right. So now I got my number 11 spot. Now this is where it gets tricky because you have so many teams to consider for this spot. Because the 12 seed is the UNLV Rebels. That's my big group of 6 champion representation. I believe UNLV will win the Mountain West this year. I think they dethrone Boise. I think UNLV makes the playoff in the 12 seed. My 11 seed, though, is going to the SMU Mustangs. The reason being, I looked at their schedule. Their schedule is beyond workable. They have a deep roster. They have Kevin Jennings coming back, veteran quarterback, Rhett Lashley as head coach and their offensive play caller. They have an abundance of talent that they have developed down there at Southern Methodist University. I believe that SMU and Miami are going to face off in the ACC title game. It's very possible and workable that SMU can go into that game undefeated. Miami could go into that game undefeated or with one loss, that being to Notre Dame, like I mentioned. But again, it goes back to show you, who do you punish? How do you punish them? If SMU's undefeated and Miami is a one loss to an undefeated, and the only loss SMU would have on their resume would be to a conference champion, I don't think that they leave SMU out of the college football playoff. Now, obviously, it depends on their ranking as they climb throughout the season, but I think it's possible. This is kind of like my hot take sort of thing. I think SMU will make it in strictly based off the fact that the only game I think SMU is going to lose this year is to Miami in the ACC championship. So there you have it. That's my 12-team playoff bracket. I have Notre Dame at 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Miami 4, Oregon 5, Indiana 6, Georgia 7, Texas Tech 8, Oklahoma 9, USC 10, SMU 11, and UNLV at 12. So now we got to obviously see this through. But first, we're going to talk about possible upset scenarios or possible chaos scenarios. So here's something to think about. Out of all those teams I listed, I'll throw it up here real quick. These are all 12 teams. Well, here are 8 more teams that could easily be in the mix for a college football playoff at-large spot. I got BYU out of the Big 12, Michigan, Penn State, and Iowa out of the Big 10, and then LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M out of the SEC. Listen, and I also kind of have Clemson in there, but I didn't really give that too much of a deep thought. But think of it this way. So we see the 12-team bracket. Well, what happens in the SEC if everybody picks each other apart? What if Texas has 2 losses? What if Georgia has 2 losses? Maybe Bama does, maybe LSU does. And based on tie-breaking rules, let's say someone goes to the SEC title game, that being Texas and Georgia, and both of those 2 teams, you're going to punish someone for losing in the in a conference championship game. The committee hasn't punished anybody for losing a conference championship game. Nobody yet. They haven't punished anybody, and I doubt they'll start this year. But here, if you look at LSU, let's look at Alabama's schedule first. Now, I didn't put Alabama in because I think they're going 9-3, 8-4 this year. Mainly because I do not trust their quarterback situation. I believe they're going with Keelan Russell over senior quarterback Austin Mack. Keelan Russell, I think, has like 36 snaps to his name. Maybe less. But here's their schedule. East Carolina at Kentucky, Florida State, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Georgia at Tennessee, Texas A&M, at LSU, at Vanderbilt, Chattanooga, Auburn. So let's say Bama loses to Georgia and LSU. They'd be a 10-2 team. Now let's look at LSU. First Clemson, Louisiana Tech, at Ole Miss, Texas A&M, McNeese, at Kentucky, Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, Texas, at Tennessee, at Arkansas. So what if they lose to Texas A&M and let's say, for sake of argument, Texas? Let's say they lose to the 2 Texas schools. Well, then there's another 10-2 team. How about Texas A&M, Missouri State, Arizona State, Kentucky, LSU, at LSU, home against Arkansas, at Missouri, the Citadel, at Bama, at South Carolina, versus Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas. What if they lose to Oklahoma and let's say Missouri? Like, this is a chaos level scenario based on the fact, like, what if all these teams just decide to knock each other off? And what if you have an abundance of 10-2 teams? I think this reinforces the need to stay at a 12-team playoff. There's no need to expand it to 24 teams. the getting down to the nitty-gritty of it at the end of a season, I think is what makes this sport absolutely amazing. I think the 12-team playoff expansion has been an absolute hit over the past 3 years. It's been fantastic for the sport and for the ratings. Now, maybe not necessarily for the matchups that we've gotten, because there's been a fair share of blowouts. But when you're looking at this, I don't see, like, if all these teams are 10-2, I can't wait to see the committee try to maneuver through this and try to make sense of it all. So what about for the Big Ten? Well, what about Ole Miss? You gonna discount them? They have a very workable schedule, and it all depends on how Pete Golding is at head coach. I mean, there's plenty of weapons coming back, especially Trinidad Chambliss, Keywan Lacey. One guy will more than likely be up for the Doak Walker Award, and the other will definitely be a Maxwell Award contender and a Heisman finalist, more than likely. Are you going to discount them? They can go 10-2 with losses to, let's say, Texas and Oklahoma, or Georgia and Oklahoma. So Ole Miss can be in this conversation. How about we jump over to the Big Ten? Michigan, that's a team that I'm keeping my eye on because their schedule's a little less workable. They drew Oklahoma, Iowa, Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon and Ohio State. So they have a tough sledding. But let's say they only lose to, I don't know, let's say they only lose to Indiana and Ohio State. But let's say they upset Oregon and upset Oklahoma. Like, what do you do if they're 10-2? And let's say you still have Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon, and USC, and all those guys in the mix still. That's something to look at. I'm keeping my eye on Happy Valley, Penn State, the Nittany Lions. Here's their schedule for 2026. Marshall at Temple, Buffalo, Wisconsin, at Northwestern, against USC, at Michigan, Purdue, at Washington, Minnesota, Rutgers, at Maryland. If they can get two or one out of the USC, Michigan, and Washington games, Penn State, more than likely, with this schedule, can be looking at a 10-2 to 11-1 in first year for Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Obviously, he took over for James Franklin, who is now at Virginia Tech, who more than likely they'll be better as a football team, but again, we'll see. But Penn State, there is a world where Penn State, if all the transfers came in, if everything is meshing well together, if they're well coached and they're well balanced, I don't see any reason if Penn State, what if they go 11-1, 10-2? Are you going to keep them out? Because they'll have marquee wins over probably USC and Michigan, or at Washington, who is no scrub. That'll be another team viable for the potential playoff. How about BYU from the Big 12? They play Utah Tech, Arizona, at Colorado State, at TCU, Iowa State, Notre Dame, at UCF, Arizona State, at Utah, Baylor, at Kansas, Cincinnati. They're going to be favored in every game other than the Notre Dame game. But let's say that BYU, I think they're going to go and play Texas Tech in the conference championship. What happens if Texas Tech wins the Big 12, but BYU, maybe their only loss is to a number 4 ranked Notre Dame, but they would have a top 25 win over a Utah. How's that going to go at 10-2 or 11-2 at that point in the season? I don't know. BYU's definitely in the mix. And a team I'm keeping my eye on from the Big Ten, because how likely is it to happen? Probably not too likely. But the last time Ohio State traveled to Iowa beat them down, and it was not competitive for a good majority of that game. I think Iowa ended up winning like 58-21, something stupidly crazy like that. But if you look at Iowa's schedule, Northern Illinois, Iowa State, Northern Iowa, at Michigan, Ohio State, at Washington, at Minnesota, Wisconsin, at Northwestern, Purdue, at Illinois, Nebraska. If you can win one out of the Michigan, Ohio State, Washington slate that you have mid-season, Iowa can very well end up 10-2, maybe even 11-1 with the way that if they play well. If they If they just capture one of those, and if it is an Ohio State, they can definitely work their way into the playoff too. All of these 8 teams, and there are others that I have talked about, there is a chaos scenario where the top of the teams and the top of the conferences, they pick each other apart because let's think about it. Ohio State, Indiana, USC, Oregon, those 4 giants in the Big Ten, they all play each other. So they will be beating each other. They will be knocking each other off and knocking each other out. SEC, you got Alabama. They play Georgia. They play Tennessee. They play A&M. They play LSU. They got Ole Miss. They got A&M. They got Auburn. They got Bama. They got Texas. They got Tennessee. Like, it goes on and on and on. Just all of these teams collectively competing for those at-large spots. I'm just saying, I'm not necessarily thinking that this is going to happen because this takes a lot for it to happen. But is it definitely within the realm of possibility? Oh, 100% it is. All right, now to finish off the show, I knew it was a little bit a longer one today, but we're going to talk about my playoff bracket, now who's going to win it all. So the first round matchups, UNLV travels to Oregon, to Eugene, Oregon. Now, can I just take a pause real quick and just to say, how awesome would these games be on campuses? Like, do we really need all the BCS or the New Year's Six bowl games? Do we need all of those to be in the quarterfinals? Semifinals, I understand. But you're basically punishing the fans. Sorry, nobody really has $50,000 travel budget in all of these fan bases. I mean, maybe USC, but even then, they don't have that kind of fan. Like, the fan bases is the one that's punished. The first round is the only round that gets home playoff games. Unless Miami makes it to the Orange Bowl, then of course it's a home game. But other than that, every other game after the first round is all on bowl games, and it's all traveling for the fan bases. I think that's ridiculous. Can we just take a moment and just express, like, the semifinals? Sure, just rotate it every 2 years. You could still keep your New Year's Six bowl games because, like I mentioned, all those teams I mentioned earlier, Bama, LSU, Iowa, A&M, Ole Miss, Penn State, Michigan, BYU, and a slew of others, you can still have quality New Year's Six bowl games before the playoff goes. You can have a Penn State play a Michigan, or an Iowa play and Texas A&M, or heck, you can even have LSU and a Bama rematch in the Fiesta Bowl if you wanted. Like, you could still have New Year's Six bowl games, but make the playoff more intuitive for the fans. Like, you can have a great playoff product and still keep some bowl games too, like the major bowl games that people actually watch. But that's neither here nor there. That's a conversation for another day. So my first round matchups, UNLV, I'm sorry, but you're going on the road at Eugene, Oregon. Oregon will beat them by 30. Oklahoma traveling to Lubbock, Texas. I would take the Sooners in Lubbock, Texas. I think Oklahoma's overall just a better team, and I'm looking at the quarterback combination for this. Oklahoma check, Oklahoma check. Oklahoma would beat Texas Tech. I'd say probably by I wouldn't say a convincing score, but I'd say it'd be like a 10 to 13 point win. SMU traveling to Indiana to play the Hoosiers. I think it would be competitive, but I think Indiana would pull away. I'd probably take Indiana like 31-17, but like a late pull away. I do think Rhett Lashley has built something great in SMU, and I think that team is deep. I think the quarterback play will be consistent this year. I think SMU has a real shot to make the college football playoff. But I would take Indiana to beat SMU in this first round. And then USC traveling to Georgia to take on the Bulldogs. And I would take Georgia to win this game. But how about those matchups? Other than SMU and Indiana, which is still better than like Tulane and Ole Miss from last year, or James Madison and Oregon from a year ago, UNLV and Oregon, it would basically be the same rinse and repeat. Unfortunately, you're going to have one of these games every single year as long as the group of six champion gets represented. Maybe you'll get one that, can shock someone, but I don't think UNLV is the team, and I don't think Oregon would be the team that they would make an example of to upset. So this is my quarterfinals now. Oregon against Miami, Oklahoma against Notre Dame, Indiana against Texas, and Georgia against Ohio State. So you would have Dan Lanning, the replacement to Mario Cristobal, and Mario Cristobal going against his old team. I would think the Hurricanes would get it done again. I think the Hurricanes are absolutely loaded this year. I think that they would be able to beat Dan Lanning, Oregon. I think they would be able to beat them. Oklahoma and Notre Dame, I would take the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in this. I think it would be a great game. Indiana against Texas, I would take the Longhorns. I think they're a better roster, more depth on that roster. I trust the quarterback more and their weapons more. And then you got a rematch of that amazing, I think it was the Sugar Bowl from years ago before the national title, Georgia and Ohio State. I would take the Buckeyes to beat Georgia. But how about those matchups? Man, these would be cool. All right, my college football semifinals goes as follows. Miami and Notre Dame, a rematch from the regular season, and Texas against Ohio State, the fourth meeting in the past 3 years for these two programs. If we all remember that Texas met Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl in the semifinals of the first ever 12-team playoff, and then last year, Texas came in as the number 1 team in Columbus, and Ohio State beat them 14-7. This year, in week 2, Ohio State travels to Texas to take on the Longhorns, and then this would be the fourth matchup if it all follows suit. I think Notre Dame's going to get Miami and South Bend. They will not get them in the semifinals. I would take Miami to reach the national championship by beating and getting their get back at Notre Dame. And then Texas against Ohio State, as much as I like Texas, as much as I like them, I would take Ohio State. I would take Ryan Day and that coaching staff. I would take Ohio State and Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith. I would take that roster compilation against Texas any day of the week. So I think this year's national championship game is going to come down to the Miami Hurricanes and the Ohio State Buckeyes. A true rematch of the 2002 national championship game. And I think that the Miami Hurricanes are going to be your 2027 college football national champions. And that's going to wrap it up this week on The Lake Show, everyone. I really appreciate you all making me a part of your day. Thank you so much. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave some comments down below. I'm your host, Dominic Lako. God bless.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted.